I love you guys.
Dance off, bro. I have the high ground.
Expecto Patronum!
39 days, 20 people, 1 survivor. Tribe of Nerds.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tribe of Nerds. It's just Kevin, Sarah, and I this week. Will unfortunately couldn't be here, and neither could Cameron. But we are here to talk about the next X-Men movie, X-Men 2 United, which Kevin and I are very excited about. Unfortunately, Sarah could not watch this movie in time for the podcast.
I would just like to point out to all of the viewers, listeners, fans in general, I went and watched every Pirates movie, the worst ones. I watched 4. I had to go back and restart it because it was so bad that I fell asleep. I watched all of those. And now when it's time to watch my thing, Sarah can't be bothered.
Oh, no, yeah. Sarah couldn't be bothered to go get a job to, take care of her family. I mean, not everybody can have the whole fucking summer off, Kevin. You know what I mean? Or fuck off all year.
I watched Pirates when the school year was still going. I don't know what you want from me.
I am mad that you remembered that.
I was working out and watching your terrible, terrible movies. And all I asked you to do was watch the greatest superhero comic book movie of all time. That's all I asked you to do.
Yeah. Well,
I am going to go to bed tonight, and I'm going to watch it tonight, and probably tomorrow because I'm going to fall asleep because it's stupid. But I am going to call you tomorrow and just shit all over this movie just because you like it so much, just so you know.
Fantastic.
Well, going into the critics and audience score and the box office, the critics and audience both gave X2 85%. And the box office is $407.7 million, so about double the amount of X-Men 1. So it's pretty cool.
Which is like $500 million. $500 million, which at that time is a lot of money.
Yes, for sure.
For
early
sure.
2000s.
Do you know what the production budget for this was, by chance? I'm just curious. I like shit like that.
I do not. I didn't get that. I got the box office.
I'm just like, it's just so like back then in like the early 2000s, like clearly things were done so much more differently, like with the CGI, like we learned in the Pirates movie. So I'd just be curious to learn like if it would be more expensive to make this kind of a film now or then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering that as well, but like now this movie honestly would have a lot more CGI than it does. Like things that are done practical in this movie would probably be CGI'd.
Mm-hmm.
The budget is listed on Wikipedia as 110 to 125 million.
Okay, so yeah, it destroyed its production. Like it superseded it.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's one thing you always got to worry about too, is how much you put into something. Are we going to get it back? And that's why I don't like a lot of CGI these days, because I just feel like they just half-ass it, and then it costs $30 million to do it that way. And it's like, bro, you could have just put a dude in a mask and profited all that money,
Right. You could have just gone to the location and shot it there instead of like adding in all the digital trees and the digital background and digital everything. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into our impressions of this movie. So, Kevin, what did you think once again about rewatching X2?
I mean, spoiler alert, I've rewatched it many times. It is one of the best comic book adaptation movies ever. Like, it's just so good. And like, you remember when you haven't watched it for a while, like you remember that like, oh yeah, that opening scene is really good. And like, like you remember that certain specific things are like the fight with Wolverine and Lady Deathstrike is really good. But they kind of sideline Cyclops, but like the actual writing on it is so good. Like it's so well done. I just love it.
Yeah.
I just love it.
Look at him he just gets happier every time he says something. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is great. I mean, I think probably the biggest flaw is definitely like sidelining Cyclops, but again, like you said, I everything else is so good that I can forgive that part of it at least.
But they
I
also they sideline him, but also like narratively it makes sense because they're like when they do it, it's to try to like clamp down on all the X-Men, right? So like they're kidnapping Xavier, they're kidnapping him, like they tried to take down the Jet. So
yeah,
like they're trying to take them all off the board. So it makes sense that like Cyclops was with the professor. So like that's who gets kidnapped. So like it is frustrating that like because of what happens in X3, he doesn't get like the moment to shine. He's kind of taken off the board, but like it also makes sense in the movie.
for sure. From a story perspective, I can agree with that. Well, let's
Yeah.
get
Even
into
though I didn't watch this movie, like I kind of said it before, but like bringing it back to the whole superhero thing, like this wasn't a thing that was done in the early 2000s, like it wasn't like cool, so like so many of this you're bound to have like little things you're like, I'm not so fond of that, because you got to think, what was it, 20 years later they fucking hit us with the Green Lantern, so like there's things to be learned along the way,
Oh,
even
not
now,
Green Lantern.
oh boy. Yeah, I feel like we're gonna make a lot more Green Lantern jokes when we talk about the Deadpool movies.
Oh yes, cannot wait. It is just such a stark fucking contrast. It makes me so happy.
I know,
It's
and
like me and Kevin. You know what I mean? Like
I know, like
he is
Sarah's
Green
so
Lantern,
miserable and awful and
I
just
am
like terrible to be
Deadpool.
around, and I'm just nice to everyone. It's just like
Right?
that.
Exactly.
But yeah, because even if you think about like Deadpool and or not Deadpool, Daredevil and Elektra and the Fantastic Four, which also came out like in this era, like this
Yes.
is so much better than those.
Yes. Oh, completely. Like all three of those movies are way worse.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah. But let's start from the beginning and go through the end, and then we'll get our rankings in. So of course, we need to start with one of the most iconic scenes in comic book movie history, the White House Nightcrawler scene. And this just holds up so well. And we definitely need to talk about Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler, aka Mr. Trader's host himself,
Yeah.
or
The
Fluke.
Trader's host himself. It's so good. Like, I don't think that they've redone his powers better until X-Men 97 that just came out. Like, and the only reason that they like one-upped it is because you actually like teleported with him the one time. Like, it's so good. The poof, the sound, like the way that like they're moving, they kind of
The
move
way
in
it
slow
sounds
motion.
when you fart.
It's like they're all fighting, and he's just like able to teleport and move faster than them. So like not in the same speedster sort of like Quicksilver way, but like in a similar sort of like he can just outmaneuver all of them. It's so good.
Yeah, I really enjoy this scene so much. And like again,
I didn't see it, but
yeah, you
I do
didn't
know
see it.
like back in those days, like the White House thing was like when they involved the White House and shit, like that was just such a big trope back in the early 2000s. Like you had fucking
Oh,
what, Independence Day,
it's
the
such
day
an
after
early 2000s White House
tomorrow.
office.
It is like it's the White House is such an early 2000s trope, but like typically all the movies that used it did it very well, and to where like it brought you in and made you like think like, because it's bigger than you, it's supposed to be it, like this is the whole world, the White House symbolizes all of us kind of thing, you know what I mean? So like I get it. I'm glad they did it well from what it sounds like, because it could have gone really fucking bad.
It's
Yeah.
so good. Like the way that the like security is like, no, we don't know how many people there are. Like we don't know how many there are because like he's poofing all around them and
Right.
like it's so good.
Yeah.
You
And
can say apparate, because every time you say just poofing, like I don't know
Well,
what
because
it
it's like
is.
a
It's just
I think it's
in the comics it's Bamf. It's because it's like
yes,
a
Bamf. Yep. So
but like the actual sound of it is like it's so, like the way they actualized this like concept that was just a drawing and like made it real life. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, and we should talk about Alan
And
Cumming in this role. And so we were talking about this off air earlier today, and just like the fact that it takes several hours for actors to get all the makeup and everything. So this is no different. Like they had to put so
I
much makeup
cannot
on
imagine.
Alan Cumming, and and I guess he wasn't necessarily. I think he was the first choice for Nightcrawler. He said he couldn't do it because of another movie, so they were going with a couple other choices, and then they all left, and Alan Cumming's schedule opened up, so they got him back. So
Yeah.
It's pretty neat they were able to make it work like that. It's funny to see like if someone like go on I mean it happens all the time, obviously, like it's Hollywood, but like how this is what most people know him as other than traitors nowadays, you know what I mean? So like how do you go from playing fucking Nightcrawler to just being like, "Ah, yes, hello, who would you like to vote for?" You know, like it's very different. Yes.
well,
And
and he
like
was also Loop around the same time in Spy Kids. So like, and he was
He was
well,
what?
it was yeah, he was Fleegan Floop in Spy Kids.
Shut the front door. No way. I wouldn't have guessed that. That's funny. Okay.
Yeah. And then he it's a bad movie because it's supposed to be the sequel to The Mask, but Son of the Mask, he was the original version, I think, in a media of a version of Loki. Before the MCU
Okay.
did Loki way better. But like
it's just funny to think of like him, he's like so dignified now, like him in a makeup chair for like 6
Right?
hours just getting coated in blue. And like similar thing with Kelsey Grammer. Like Kelsey Grammer is like, we know he's not the greatest person necessarily, but like at the time, like so respected, so dignified, and like getting himself off for it. Like the fact that they were able to do that is really cool.
Right. Like I feel like he'd be the type they're like literally like trying to do his makeup and his eyebrows are getting peeled off and he's like, sir, it seems like half of my face is gone, but it's okay. Just put it back later.
yeah, and like I think Kevin said this earlier today as well. Like this is why we didn't get Alan coming back as Nightcrawler in any other X-Men movie, which sucks because I think he's been the best version of this in live action that we've gotten. So
yeah, strange they would go to so much effort, like if he said he couldn't do it, whatever, but to still like wait on him just in case for this role and then to not bring him back, like, bro, what?
Listen,
I just
we'll
don't
get into
understand
X3 next week. We'll get into X3 next week. X3 is a mess.
Yeah.
I can't
but like
wait to shit on all of your favorite shit.
I will still defend X3 next week, but that's a next week problem. Okay. No, like he's so good. And like even like this is one of those times too, because Kevin Feige worked on this. This is one of those times where like they took liberties, but it worked. So like making Mystique last week, like making Mystique like scaly and naked and like making him have like those scars to like make him look more.
That was a good call.
Like it worked so well. And like, is that the way he looks? Like, no, he does not have those in the comics, but like it looked so good.
Yeah. It looked really cool.
Yeah, creative liberties for sure. Yeah, I mean, as long as they just don't overdo it, because kind of whatever with the Jack Sparrow, the Pirates movies, they could have really fucked Davy Jones up, like just making him look like an octopus, which is like early renderings was just like bad. So the way they are able to fine tune things to make it work for film, I love it without overdoing it. And yeah, whoever casted the blue titty girl, that's my shit. Shout out to them.
Rebecca Romaine, and then we get Jennifer
Rebecca
Lawrence.
Romaine. Yeah, imagine being that makeup department that you have to make up Rebecca Romaine and Alan Cumming. And like, how much blue paint did this production go through?
A lot.
How much blue body paint?
I would love to know, right? And if you start like how good a body paint was it, because like, I mean, they paid a lot of money on the production value, but if you like skimp in a few paces and you get like shitty blue paint, you're going to have nipples out and stuff. You know what I mean? Which is fine with me. That's fine. But like production on film, probably not the best. You don't want to have another Janet Jackson thing. So.
All right, well, let's keep moving through the rest of the movie. So at the end of the first, what was that?
It's just like Jake's sick of my shit.
Jake's ready to move on from Sarah's shit.
Yeah. Sorry.
Always,
I'll watch
always.
the movie next.
All right, so at the end of the first movie, Logan is told to go to Alkali Lake to find out more about his past. So he goes there, he finds nothing at this time. And then you have Jean Grey having premonitions as her powers keep growing. And then Xavier tracks Nightcrawler, sends Storm and Jean. And I think our next talking point, we get to talk about Stryker here, Colonel William Stryker, played by Brian Cox in this movie. And we basically see, we don't know all the information yet, but he gets the president's approval to go do research on the X Mansion. And he gets information from Magneto in Magneto's prison using we'll talk about it, but his son's like DNA to get information out of Magneto. And so then he goes and abducts the students, and like you get
that siege on the X Mansion.
Yes.
That scene.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I have a question that's totally for someone that didn't watch the movie, but also just as a question. That Alkali Lake, does it have any significant like powers or like significance at all? Because just like alkali makes me think of alkaline. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, did they name that on purpose like that?
So it's like a X-Men location, right? So like it's in Canada, and it's where Wolverine was experimented on.
Yes.
And where he got his metal bones, and
Okay.
so yeah, it's like an
so that
ongoing.
makes sense because the alkali. So yeah.
Yes.
It's like an ongoing X-Men location.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, oh, that'd be smart, because I just love when people really look like stuff like that. Just a little, just common sense. Just pay attention. It's fun.
So you get into Wolverine's past, you see that him and Stryker have the connection, and Xavier and Cyclops get captured after going to see Magneto. So let's just talk about this whole thing with Stryker and the X Mansion siege here.
Oh, the siege of the X Mansion.
Explain to me, what is Stryker's powers? Because that fucking
he doesn't
name
have it.
is just
He doesn't have any.
He doesn't have powers. He is a human who does not like mutants.
Why does he
and so his son was. Well, get this. You'll appreciate this. So his son was a mutant, and he sent his son to the professor to cure him.
Yes.
And he couldn't be cured because there isn't a cure for being a mutant. And so that's why he's like so particularly mad at the professor. Because you didn't cure my son. Maybe there's some like allegory going on there of maybe you should like love your children no matter how they're born.
Yes.
So yeah, I do like the world building that like sometimes we think that like how can this place exist and no one knows about it? Like, no, they do know about it, but like, they're keeping an eye on it, but it doesn't seem like that big of a deal right now. Like, no, there's a jet that comes out of the basketball court. Like, yes, the government is aware of this. So I did appreciate that.
Right, yeah. It's like fucking Transformers, right? Like, they don't know. Like, fuck out of here.
Yeah, and I like that, like, this is like I was saying before, this is like the calculated attack of like Professor and Scott are off seeing Magneto, Jean and Storm are off tracking down Nightcrawler, and like Wolverine's left alone with the kids in the mansion. He's in charge of the mansion, and like this is when they attack, right? Like this is when they go after everybody. So the siege on the exit. First of all, call back to the end of the first movie when he says like, what are you going to do? When Magneto says like, what are you going to do if somebody comes to your school? And he's like, I feel bad for them because they're going to get their asses kicked. Right. Like, and they do. It's so good. This is where, remember I was saying where Wolverine, so Hugh Jackman, this is the thing that I was watching. Hugh Jackman was running at 35 miles an hour, like to train for this movie, for this scene. Like, so when he's like running
that's
at
crazy.
full speed,
It's such a good action scene.
it's so good. Like,
yeah, that's intense.
yeah, like he goes into like the like almost the berserker mode of just like when he stabs the guy against the refrigerator.
Yeah. Is this our first Hugh Jackman Wolverine scream?
So good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman is a phenomenal actor. He was on some shit back in the day. Like he was everywhere. And
Yeah.
women were all over that weird hairy chest for sure.
And not just women.
Okay, Kevin.
It's like the whole like even like the kids, like those like cameos of powers, like that's where like Siren wakes up and starts screaming, wakes everybody up, and like Kitty wakes up and drops through the floor and then runs through the wall, so they're like shooting at her, they can't get her because she can walk through walls. And like it's the second actress to play Kitty, by the way. It's gonna be the third next week. But like they do all that, and it's funny because so Jubilee ends up being one of the mutants that gets captured, one of the kids that gets captured, and brought to the like headquarters. She also had a scene in the museum before then.
Yes,
where
we forgot to mention
that was cut out. So she had a scene where she was like, her powers were so kind of like Jean's powers. She's like hearing more voices and she's having a hard time controlling them, and like having a hard time controlling like all the electronics in the museum start to go like right. So like similarly, Jubilee was like, her powers were like kind of starting to manifest and she was like having a hard time controlling them. So she was supposed to have a bigger role in this. But she ends up getting captured and Wolverine just loses his shit. It's amazing.
Yeah. We probably should.
I just was waiting for the like, and it was so sexy at the end. Like that's how.
We probably should mention that museum scene as well, because that really, so we get to see more Iceman, and we get to see Pyro and Rogue, and so that's kind of sets up Iceman and Rogue have a thing for each other right now, and then Pyro.
Well, they can't.
Sorry. I was gonna say, how would that's such like a different world thing. Like, how would that even work though? You know, like you just can't. That's
so
like
they have a little kiss in the movie, and she blows a little frost air, and then they do another kiss, and then she like almost knocks him out because she's like, she kissed him for a second and she just takes a little bit of his power, and then she kisses him for longer, and it's like they're like, okay, we need to stop. But they are just being horny teenagers.
And then we set up Pyro as well, taking great glee in trying to burn that guy for the stealing his lighter. So
Pyro just being a jerk, just be a jerk.
Yeah.
Just being a jerk in the museum.
Valid to me. If you took my fucking lighter,
very
and it's the
much,
only one I had,
very much. If it was the three of us, if it's the three of us, Sarah is the Pyro of this.
Yes.
Like, she's the jerk who's saying, no, you can't have my lighter just because I said no. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. Go find your own.
God.
Jake's probably the one who's sitting there like, just let him use it. Oh my gosh.
Sarah, stop being a bitch. No.
Just let him use it. And I'm the one just sitting there like, I'm gonna have to clean this mess up, aren't I?
Yep.
And then we also get the like that huge show of the professor's powers to be able to like freeze everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
Like they all pause, which is really cool if you think about it, because time doesn't freeze, right? So like the one girl's on her phone and you hear her mom be like, honey. So like it's only the people in that area. So like all of the people in that area are gonna have that same experience of like, what just happened? Like I just lost like a minute of my life. Where did it go? So like that's crazy.
Yeah. That's
I do like that little like extra thing. Like you said, you can still hear the person on the phone. That's, God damn it. I hate that I'm excited to watch this. Like I'm not even gonna watch it now just because you like it.
It's so good, Sarah. Don't not watch it out of spite for me. Watch it because it's so good, and then it'll give you more ammunition. It'll give you more ammunition to hate on the movie next week, because the next one is comparatively not nearly as good.
Yes.
So is Hugh Jackman in the next one too, or is it
like
what the fuck?
Hugh Jackman's in like all of them.
How is it bad with Hugh Jackman? That's
Hugh Jackman's not in Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix.
He's in Apocalypse because he's like a cameo in Apocalypse.
Oh, he's in. Yeah, that's right. He's the cameo. He's just in it for that one scene. He's not in Dark Phoenix.
It's one Stan Lee cameo. That doesn't count.
So Stan actually does not cameo.
It's not.
movie.
It's not a cameo. It's a short scene.
Yeah.
They definitely wrote it in to have Wolverine in the movie so they could use Wolverine in like the promotion for it.
Yes.
Okay,
Anyway,
yeah,
getting
that
back to
makes
the
sense.
siege. Getting back to the siege on the X-Mansion, it's so good. And like all of the little details too of like Colossus going metal.
Yes.
Right? And like so he like and then they can't shoot him. And then but he's still like the teenager, so he's like, I can help. And Wolverine's like, help them, like help the kids.
Yeah.
So like it's so good. And they escape through the tunnels.
I love the others, like the small scene of like Wolverine just getting a beer and Iceman like chilling it for him too. Like,
yeah,
that was a good scene.
Damn, that's
it's so
handy as
funny because
fuck, though.
Iceman's trying to be the tough guy to Wolverine, like stay away from my girl, and then he ends up just like ducking behind the table and just like while the gun's going off, and Wolverine's getting shot, just pummeling the guy anyway. So funny. So good.
Yeah. And yeah,
Look
so
at
then,
you. Oh goodness. I've never seen you so giddy after talking about something.
I also want to take it because I think when we get to First Class, we will say First Class is really good. But like First Class had a mistake here that I don't think that this movie has, which is when Emma Frost turns to diamond in that movie. Her whole body turns to diamond, including her clothes, but not all of Colossus. Like Colossus's clothes don't turn to metal in this, which like I appreciate that attention to detail. That's one of the things that makes this movie one of the best movies.
yes, yep. So this stuff happens, and then we're gonna get to Mystique getting information about Magneto's prison, and then you get the whole scene of her enticing the security guard to get drunk and have sloppy sex, and then she injects iron into his blood.
What the hell?
Yeah, so was this actually Rebecca Romaine out of like all that makeup? Okay, I assumed so. So yeah, and so then the iron in the blood, Magneto extracts the iron from the guard's blood, and
it's like that pink mist comes out of him. It's so good.
Yeah, it's
God,
it's such
that sounds really neat.
Yeah, you'll like that.
Some death too.
I was like, that sounds like some Saw shit I would want to see.
Yeah.
It's also like the way that they do it. Like when you know it's coming, you know it's coming. But when you don't know it's coming, you're a little bit like, what is she doing to him? Like, is she gonna like replace? Like, did she give him something to knock him out so she could replace him? Like,
right.
And then you see he starts to like give an attitude. So in an earlier scene, Sarah, this same security guard like basically beats the shit out of him for being Magneto. Yes. So he comes into the room and Magneto's like, something's different about you. And he's like acting like he's going to beat him up again. He's like, no, you won't. No, because there's so much iron in your blood.
Yeah.
And it's like, and he just like hand motion and the guy's just like floating there. And then he pulls the iron out of his blood.
And uses it as like projectile bullets through the prison, and then as platforms to walk across the gap because they try to
you get the platform. Out. You get the platform. Like that's such a like classic.
That's some that's some Avatar shit. That's a lot of
the floating platform is the classic Magneto thing.
Yeah, like he stands on it. It's so comics accurate. Like him standing with his arms crossed on the little disc, and he's floating because he's controlling the disc. So he's not flying himself, but he's floating on the disc, and he's got the other two things just like whipping around him and just like using them as bullets.
Yeah.
So good. I love this scene so much. This is gonna be most of this movie. But yeah, so then they ride in Cyclops' car, which has early 2000s band.
Yeah, bye please.
Yeah. Boy band music, yeah. And so then they can't get a hold of Storm and Jean, and we're getting Nightcrawler, which is a cool scene as well. But we get to Iceman's house, and we get this really important scene, which of course is another alluding to more about having to deal with kids coming out to their parents, and because Iceman comes
Because
out.
Bobby, Iceman, his parents didn't know that he was at a school for mutants. They just thought he was at a boarding school because he was just a gifted student. I'm like, well, he is more gifted than you think. So then he has to tell them, like, actually, I'm a mutant, and that's why I'm here, and they came after us. And like shows off his powers, and it's adorable because he turns his mom's tea into ice, and then the cat comes and licks it, and you're like, oh, this is cute. And then his asshole little brother is upstairs and calls the cops on him.
Yep. And his mom does the classic parent thing of like, or wasn't it like, you can stop being a mutant or whatever?
Have you
like,
tried not being a mutant? It's so.
Have you ever tried not being depressed? Just stop.
Have you tried not being gay? Like, have you tried not being a mutant? It's so clear as day. When anyone ever hates on the X-Men, I'm like, where have you been? Because this is like the most, like, you are born this way, and like people are prejudiced against you for no reason, and they're assholes, they're the bad guys. Like, it's so clear as day. And like, it's about the like Professor X, like, learn to coexist, or the Magneto, like, burn it all to the ground because fuck him, right? Like, it's so good. It's so good.
And then
the gay in you, it's like.
This is, I've rewatched the cartoon as an adult, and I'm like, this is why I am the way that I am. Oh, interesting.
It's nice when things are like that, though, like just those subtle things that, like, because when you are gay, like, you know, I mean, I'm sure everybody is like, oh, maybe that could be like a, you know, a synonym for the whole gay thing. But like when you are gay and being young and watching that stuff, like, you do relate to it, even if they didn't directly say like you're gay. Like, it's very clearly portrayed as the same fucking thing.
And it is now in the 2000s, because when it was started in the 60s, it was allegorical to the civil rights movement of the 60s. Like, so like, it's also like super
timeless,
interesting that you can keep applying it to new groups. Like, it's so good. It's so well done. It's brilliant.
Except for the kids now who wear holes in their jeans on purpose. Just stupid. I fucking hate that. Just grow up and pull them up.
And you call me old, God.
Why kids in their jeans? I can understand a couple like cute little ones, but like, oh my God, I went to fucking work today and this girl had more fucking holes in her pants than pants. Like, what are we doing?
These Gen Zers,
sorry, I'm sorry.
Their pants are barely even pants.
Got more fucking sock than outfit.
I could see more of her socks than I could of her pants. Yeah.
All right.
I can't help it, man. Dress stupid. Like, I thought you dressed stupid, Kevin. Son of a bitch. These kids these days take the cake.
Well, kids these days are also shitting in litter boxes.
That's true, and eating Tide Pods. So yeah, I guess we can't hope for much.
These kids these days.
I'm over here.
That's what you sound like right now, Sarah. That's you.
I know. I know. And at the same time, I'm also like, what's a Google Doc? What is that?
Right. I might have come here on the Mayflower, but at least I know what a Google Doc is.
I built the Mayflower, apparently.
If the Mayflower going a little more south, you would have sank it and stolen all the treasure.
For sure. Yeah, it would have been to the locker for me.
So then the cops get called and Wolverine gets shot in the head because he can't put his claws away. And then Pyro acts up and says,
"Put your knives down. I can't."
You see all the mutants out there, well, or on TV. Well, I'm the worst one. And then just blows up all the cop cars, shoots fire.
And like,
They just shoot Wolverine in the head.
Well, every movie at some point has to have Wolverine's head healing from a wound, so they had to shoot him in the head.
Okay, that's right. He heals. Okay, yeah. I was like, whoa.
he gets knocked out from it because it's I mean,
you get hit in the head with a
Yeah,
bullet.
I mean, it takes half of somebody's face off. Yeah, it's not, not gonna fare well for you.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, this movie does two things, right? Like setting up that Pyro like identifies with the more like militant, like more with the Magneto side, right? Like setting that up because now once again you have him like fuck the police, right? In addition to like him just kind of being a jerk and then lighting the guy on fire earlier. So when he like switches later, it's not a huge shock. But the other thing they do well that comes right after this and like, started in the museum is like showing like the fire in Jean's eyes. So like if you're a comic book fan, you know that Jean is the Phoenix. So like you see these clues, like her eyes kind of like flash with fire in the museum. And then in the scene right after this, where they're in the plane, they're getting shot at. Like she does the same, like you see the fire flash in her eyes when she's using her powers to try to get rid of the missile. So like this movie does such a good job of setting things up so that it's not just a surprise at the end. Like it all makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. So Jean and Storm, they finally arrive. And because they finally get in communication with them. And so they pick them up and then they're getting shot at still. And you have the great scene of like Storm causing the giant like hurricane or tornadoes and and then they get shot down and on their way to the mansion and Magneto catches the jet and so they're all camping out and this is
what a wonderful coincidence that was.
yes, very very happy coincidence. Magneto explains Stryker's new Cerebro, that the Stryker's plan is to kill every mutant, using Xavier and his son and this new Cerebro when they went in the mansion. And so, and we find out Stryker as well, use the Nightcrawler attack to get approval from the president. So,
which is when you like so diabolical because like he actually was totally okay with Nightcrawler dying, right? Like he it was a suicide mission. He didn't care. Like, that's why like he doesn't track Nightcrawler down after that to go like get him back.
Right.
Which is you're like,
I mean, you got to have at least one expendable person on the team. That's why we have Cameron.
Like it. So like Stryker's thing, so like Stryker has Lady Deathstrike as his like security guard, right? So like he uses mutants, right? Like he's using the fluid from his son's brain. He's done all these experiments. Ugh. So yeah, he uses like the fluid from his son's brain as like a mind control for other mutants. So like he used it. Like Lady Deathstrike is his personal security guard who is like, she's basically Wolverine. Like she's got like nails that are like Wolverine's claws. So like he was just using Nightcrawler. He found Nightcrawler and was like, good, like let's use this one to try to kill the president. And like didn't care what happened to him. Like, wow, you are cold, Stryker. That is cold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I wish I had superpowers because the amount of things I could use to bother you would just be so good. Like storms at your house. You live in Florida already. Nobody would suspect it's me. I would just set your grass on fire after you mowed it like every day. So much fun shit. Oh God. That's all I'm gonna do when I watch these movies. I'd do that to Kevin. I'd do that to Kevin for sure.
So if I were gonna be an X-Men, I'd be Iceman, and Iceman is an Omega level mutant, so you wouldn't beat me.
You know what? I really hate you because like if I had to pick something, I would be really torn between like ice and fire because that's like my thing. So like it would only make sense that I would be fire and you would be ice.
Well, let's see what happens when fire and ice go against each other next week, Sarah. Yes. Let's see what happens.
At least we can't kiss each other. Fuck you.
Gross.
I don't need a midnight snack now.
Yeah, right. You bitch, you have Oreos right there at the ready.
I did have some Oreos earlier.
so then we find out Wolverine's past with Stryker. And like, so that's, I think it's a much better representation of this than the entirety of Origins Wolverine was, to be honest. Like, I love this scene when like you get to see like the flashback to like Wolverine like coming out and like he's like screaming and looking at his claws because he just like killed a bunch of guys with, yeah, like it's just so much cooler than anything what we saw from it in Origins Wolverine. Like it just works so much better. So I love this flashback scene.
Yeah.
So and then Jean finds Stryker's base from Nightcrawler, and then so we get the whole fight in the base. So Mystique and Magneto go to stop Cerebro, but Magneto instead resets it to kill all humans. So
Such a Magneto thing to do. Such a
Yes.
Magneto
All
thing to
right.
do.
manipulate-
Like it's
That's
such,
crazy.
it's such a like yeah. So Storm and Nightcrawler like go to get the kids, right?
Yes.
And Jean is with the two of them, but then Cyclops attacks. So then
Yes.
she's like, "No, you guys go on. I'll take care of Cyclops."
Mhm.
Again, the fire flashes in her eyes, and like that's what ends up destroying the dam. But like,
Yep.
And Magneto just ends up with no X-Men there to stop him. So then he just
Right.
goes over like, actually changing plans, right? And so he and Mystique are able to like flip it. So right before them, the mutants are all like falling down, right? They're
Yeah.
all like
Because yeah,
massive headaches, migraines, because Professor X is concentrating on them. He's been duped, and like just switches it.
That's
And now
just
it's all
such a massive fuck you. Like, that's crazy.
yeah, it's such a Magneto thing to do.
yeah. And then Wolverine is fighting Lady Deathstrike, which is a good fight scene.
Ugh,
So you get her
it's so
like
good because she like the reveal that she heals too is so good, and it's just like she also has
Okay.
the claws. So there, it's like you know how now it's
Oh, shit.
annoying that you know how now it's annoying that all the Marvel movies like it's just
same
like
powers.
it's the same powers, like it's a verse like a version of the same hero, and they're just going at it's like that, but the first time we saw it, it's good.
Yes.
It's
And-
so
Yeah.
good.
Like
And
even
when he kills her, it's brutal.
oh yeah, well like so he cuts the
Fucking
like,
thanks.
the
Just kidding.
top of the tank down to like trap her in, but
Right.
she's able to come out
So-
and still stab
So
him.
in all the scenes, we see him like submerged underwater when he gets the metal claws. So you
Yes.
see the thing, like the cage that he was in, to be submerged underwater. So he gets on top of it, and she's underneath of it, and she's stabbing him through the cage. And so he releases the cage, so it falls in the
God
water.
damn.
So like theoretically, she would drown, but she doesn't, and she pops up. So he grabs the thing that injected him with the adamantium, which they said in the beginning of the fight. Stryker tells him once it hardens, like once it cools, you can't melt it again. It's indestructible. So
This adamantium is warm and hasn't cooled
yeah,
yet.
so it's warm, so it's still liquid, and he takes it and he just like shoots it into her. And so it just goes through her system and she hardens, and it like comes out of her mouth and her nose and her eyes like tears, and then she falls backward and she punks at the bottom of the tank.
Yes.
Like
That's also a gruesome death. Like there's so many gruesome death scenes in this movie.
like it is not very bloody,
Yeah.
but it is very like damn, she dead. There's no coming back from that.
yeah.
Right, that's not a
Um,
nap.
So
Right.
and I mean we'll talk more about Pyro next week, but her and Pyro, Lady Deathstrike and Pyro are both gonna be back in Deadpool and Wolverine. So that's going to be
Okay.
exciting.
Well, how are they gonna do that then? Because like, if she got
It's the multiverse.
died,
There's
then-
multiple versions. It's another version of her. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
It's gonna be the same actress playing a different version of the same character.
Yeah, Kelly Who.
It's gonna be cool. She's gonna have the nails.
Yeah. So so then that happens and the kids get rescued. You get the tease from a joke earlier with the kid with the blue ton as well, sticking his ton out at Stryker because they So they tie Wolverine ties Stryker to the helicopter. Magneto comes by, takes the helicopter, and ties Stryker to like part of the dam, and leaves him for dead. And
Such a turning point for Wolverine.
yes,
Because he even leaves the dog tags.
Yeah, yep, he does. Yep. That's
like he's gone full good guy.
Yeah. It's a
Ew.
moment for his character at this point. And again,
well, by the next movie, he's like one of the leaders of the X-Men. Like he's the one who shouts out in the next movie, hold this line. So like he goes from like the outcast who's like on his own to like the leader of this team. It's a very important part of his character development.
absolutely.
So it's you.
It's me.
Yes. Yes.
It's Kevin.
So
I
Pyro also
feel like as
then-
you were talking, I was like, so is this Kevin's life then? Or did you know the script writers or what? Because this is sounding way too familiar.
Of course Kevin does. So then Pyro defects to Magneto, and goes with Magneto Mystique, and we'll see the payoff there next movie. And then the dam breaks, Stryker gets killed by the flood, and then the jet won't take off because Rogue comes and crashes the jet. And so they...
Can we side note, what was their plan before? Because they were going to get on the helicopter and they were just going to leave the jet?
I don't know.
With Iceman and Pyro and Rogue on it? Like, what?
Yeah. And they... What?
No, that I'm just laughing at Kevin. Just like, did we have another plan for that, or
Yeah.
what are we doing?
We have a backup plan what we're going to do for those three. But yeah, so she crash lands it. So they're having a hard time getting it to take off, and Jean goes out and sacrifices herself to like block the water so they can take off.
Yeah, and like I don't know. I like James Marsden, but I don't know, like the reaction and everything. I think it just sucks because we didn't get really anything building up to what should be a payoff for Cyclops to like lose Jean, but like you just don't care. So I'm like
Well, because we were given Wolverine. So like Wolverine's
Yes.
the one who has to be like you got to let her go because like
right. That's true. And that's the one thing I'll say. It's just because we don't get much of a Cyclops here in this trilogy. So it's like it sucks for that to us.
So I mean, spoilers for next week, but if we got the proper story for the next movie that he was supposed to be in, that Bryan Singer was going to make, which I mean, curses to Bryan Singer, but he made a good movie. So like, if he had made the movie he was going to make with Cyclops instead of both of them going over to Superman and flopping, like, we would have had a possibly much different version of Cyclops.
Fair. That's very fair. But yeah, so Jean sacrifices herself. Then we get the other great scene here where the X-Men give Stryker's files to the president and Charles freezes time, and then they warn him that they must unite. And so
You X-Men United.
yeah, it's such a good ending scene basically here, aside from like we'll get to this clip in a moment, but with Phoenix being teased more, but like, you know, I think this just means a lot for this movie to end on this scene, really. So
Yeah, and like that once again, it's like they like the professor could mind control the president to just say what he wants him to say, but instead it's like he lets the president make the choice, and like
free will. Yeah,
it's like it's so good.
Yeah. So
and they're all there in their uniforms. Even Nightcrawler's there in the background, like, hey.
Hey, I just tried to attack you earlier. I didn't know what I was doing, but
like Rogue's in a full
Yes.
costume now. Iceman's in a full costume now. Like they're full-fledged team members at this point.
yeah. Oh, can
They're
I?
on their shit.
Probably my favorite funny line is when Magneto and Mystique are making fun of Rogue for having the white streak in her hair.
It's so mean because they're the ones who did it. Like they're so, like it so cements them as jerks and
Mhm.
as like the bad guys, like, and like so cements her as going to be on the good guy side too. Like we side with her and she's in the right, and like those guys are the bad guys because they're mean to her.
Yeah. I saw a video because I was watching a couple of X-Men reviews on YouTube, and one of them just said Magneto here is like the sassy gay uncle. So
Sir Ian McKellen,
yep.
all of our sassy gay uncles.
I would
So
love for
yeah.
him to be my gay.
What was that?
I would love
You
for
would-
him to be my gay uncle.
All right, so then we get the Phoenix shape in the lake, setting up for X3. So, and I will say also we had a Beast cameo, Hank McCoy, appearing on the screen in a news segment. So that was shown, but it was not Kelsey Grammer, just some other actor.
Yeah.
So,
That was just a person named Hank McCoy on TV, but it was a fun name drop because Hank McCoy is of course the real name of Beast.
yes.
Yeah, this is like, so we finally see like the shape of the Phoenix in the water, but like I said, we got those like flashes like in her eyes before then. And then also like, I remember reading at the time, and I tried to watch for it this time, but I didn't, like, it's so subtle, but like they all have different color piping in their black costumes. So apparently Jean's also changes. Like Jean's, I think, goes from green to red. So in the first movie, I think it was green, and then in this movie it's red. Like I remember somebody saying that at the time. And I tried to watch for it this time, and I didn't notice it. But like again, because this is good writing, like they do subtle things to like show that things are going to happen. So like if you're a comic book fan and you're watching this movie, or even a 90s cartoon fan and you're watching this movie, you're like, that's the Phoenix. That's the Phoenix. She's not dead, right? Like, and it's set up and it's a payoff and it's so well done.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Anything else before we head into our rankings?
I just love this movie.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna settle where the ranking stands. I think X2 is gonna go over X-Men 1. I think that's a very clear where the rankings are.
I love X-Men 1, but X2
is
like it's not a contest. It's not a contest.
Yeah. All right. X2 United and X-Men 2000. So and I'm guessing we know where Last Stand is gonna go. We'll get there next week.
The Last Stand is one of the highest grossing X-Men movies, though.
That is true. I think it's off the back of how good the first two were, though.
True. That's correct. But we do have to give it that.
Yeah. All right. So then mutants adding to the team. So right now the rankings, as it stands from the first one, we have Wolverine at number 1, Charles Xavier at number 2, Rogue at 3, Storm at 4, Jean Grey at 5, and Cyclops is probably going to be if not the bottom, he's going to be one of the last ones. So we have Nightcrawler and Iceman. I think we can add here. We'll put Pyro with Magneto, and we'll put him in the villain.
Well, I mean, Nightcrawler's obviously going way up there.
Yeah, I love Alan Cumming's portrayal. I mean, I feel like, well, because wait, are we trying to think? Are we? Because I think we're skipping some of the X-Men movies later on, and I know there's the other version of Nightcrawler, the younger version.
For right now, we'll put Nightcrawler. I would still, I mean, Wolverine is obviously the star and gets the most to do, so I would still, not necessarily because I like him the most, because he clearly has the most to do, I would still leave him at number 1.
Yeah.
But I would put Nightcrawler number 2. His power is so cool. Like watching him bamf around it's so good. And
you get like the backstory behind even like his design, the tattoos, and just like his religious beliefs and all this other stuff. Like, and my other favorite thing with Storm in this movie is she's like this calming presence, and she's the one who talks to Nightcrawler, and she's so this is absolutely Halle Berry's best time as Storm in the trilogy, in the whole series.
That's what I was gonna say. We should we should definitely be moving Storm up too. Like,
I agree.
Because she gets much more to do here. She gets better uses of her powers here. He's so cool. And like, we get his faith, and his faith is important to him. We also get like that little thing of like he every time he introduces himself, he's like, but in the Munich circus, like he goes into the full thing every time, and they're like,
Yeah.
enough, we need to go.
Kurt Wagner of the Munich circus.
But when I was in the Munich circus, they called it like, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll put Nightcrawler at 2. I really like this character, and just like the X2 is a big reason why.
Yes.
All right. And then Iceman.
And I would move Storm up to 3.
I agree with that. So over Charles Xavier as well.
Yeah, and he doesn't do as much in this movie. Like he has the really good use of his powers in terms of like freezing everybody, but he's more like the tool that the bad guys use. So like I think Storm's powers and like lines, like the stuff that she does is better.
And role in this movie, yeah. I totally agree with that for sure. I was just seeing like talking it over.
Listen, Iceman's gonna move up because I love Iceman.
Yes.
Iceman in Days of Future Past, so good. He gets the ice.
He's one of the best parts of Last Stand, to be honest.
Yeah, he goes full ice in the Last Stand. So I wouldn't put him that high yet, but he will go. Like, I will say move him up later. Like, I still think I like Rogue, and she doesn't do as much, but like, I still like her. Like, I will. This is a different version of Rogue in these movies than like the comic book or the cartoon version, because that version's much more like sassy and out there, and this one's more timid. But like, because she's timid, I'm like no, we must protect her.
So Wolverine 1, Nightcrawler 2, Storm 3, Xavier 4. Are we moving him down further?
No, I would say 4. I mean, he's still like,
yeah.
He's freezing the entire museum while they get out of there. Like
exactly.
He's freezing the entire White House.
True. Yeah. So I'm just confirming that, and then so Rogue and Iceman. I mean,
we got to put Jean. I think
Jean probably should move up as well.
Yeah.
I'd say Jean 5.
Yeah, Jean 5.
And then Iceman and Rogue, like they're pretty even. I mean, I would say Rogue had more to do in the first one because she was like a plot point in that movie. I honestly, because of like the scenes of like the whole thing with Iceman's family, and like I would put Iceman at number 6 here, and then Rogue at number 7.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so then Cyclops can stay at the bottom.
Poor Cyclops.
Yeah, poor Cyclops.
I mean, he made the team.
He made the team. Again, that's something that we can say about Cameron. I'm kidding, Cam. I love you.
We love you, Cammy.
All right. So yeah, that's our 8 in after X2. All right, the villains. So the villain standings from the first one, we have Magneto at number 1. That's not going to change, I don't think. Mystique at 2, Sabretooth at 3, and Toad at 4. So we have Stryker, Pyro, and Lady Deathstrike. I mean, I would say Stryker because he's like the exact opposite of what Magneto stood for in the first movie. I think Stryker is the other side of like the X-Men's like greatest fears in the world. I think Stryker should be at number 2.
Yeah, I love Mystique, but yeah, he's such a huge threat to them. Like his power and influence, like he has the president signing off on his diabolical schemes.
Right, exactly. And Brian Cox is really good in this movie, in this role. I don't like the Origins Wolverine Stryker as much, so
does anyone?
No.
That's why we're not watching that movie.
And then Mystique, I think probably should still be number 3. And then I would say Pyro 4, and I guess we're putting Sabretooth and Toad at the bottom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they aren't even in this movie, so they can get shuffled down.
And then Lady Deathstrike, sorry. We
Ooh,
also
Lady Deathstrike. I mean, she doesn't say or do much, but that's because she's mind controlled, and that fight scene is really good. Would I put her above or below Pyro? I would say she's a bigger threat. I might put her above Pyro.
I can see it. I mean, I think Pyro probably, I mean, he's just gonna have more.
Pyro has more character development.
It's tough. It's tough. It's close because I see where you're thinking.
Let's put her up there for now because she's gonna get bummed down because she's not in the next movie.
That's true. So Pyro's
Put her above him for now.
Yeah. All right, and then 5 Pyro, and then Sabretooth and Toad. Oh.
Same thing that happens to everything else.
All right, that is X2 United, and we hope you all enjoyed our review of one of the best comic book movies of all time. Next week we might be reviewing one of the worst comic book movies of all time.
There are things about that movie that make it not the worst of all time.
I will say that, yes, maybe that's an exaggeration, but there's also just not good things that happen.
It's not as good. It's just not. But listen, I'll defend it next week. It's fine. I'll defend it next week.
Right, we get to talk about the Juggernaut.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
Yeah, exactly. We get to talk about and him getting defeated by doing the very thing he's supposed to do, which is run through walls. Oh, we're gonna have fun with that. All right, and we do get Kelsey Grammer as Beast next week, and we get Colossus joining the fight, which, I mean, we don't get much of Colossus as a character till the Deadpool movies, but
no, we get Colossus. We also, even though they're not all together on the team at the same time, we do get all 5 original X-Men in one movie.
That's true.
So that's a plus.
And the return of the Stan Lee cameo, I think, next week, which I was shocked that Stan wasn't in this one, but
yeah,
I'm just like, what?
He's in this one, is he?
Where? I was like, where is Stan? Like, I looked it up, and he wasn't in the movie. Like, I was like, did I miss him? But no, I didn't even see anything about him in this movie. So
I mean, this was fairly early on, so maybe it was like he didn't think he needed to, like, it's not a big, like, it wasn't like a thing at that point that he be in all of them.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I just remember because I'm pretty sure he's in Last Stand somewhere, and then maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking that, but I know he's in a few of the other X-Men movies. So, and I did want to tease something for our listeners who might be interested in this weekend checking out some more shenanigans from the 3 of us and Cameron, possibly Cameron if he shows
up. And then some others that we know.
Yes, we are doing, because we represent Survivor Vanquish, we have all become friends because of Survivor Vanquish. We are going to be doing a Survivor Vanquish versus Hellscape org or online reality game. And we are all going to be playing and trying to destroy the Hellscape team. Yeah,
it's the 4 of us, Jen, Rachel, Kristen, and Yolanda, and then Anthony and
Neo.
Ryan, Neo, Wayne.
Yes. So this is going to be a very interesting time.
They got a whole bunch of other. Listen, if you watched I Love Money, if you watched the first season of Big Brother where it was a public vote, very much like that.
Yes. So I just wanted
to announce fight.
I just wanted to announce that here, and we won't really say our strategies because I don't think we should say what our strategies are on a podcast, but
strategy is win.
Yeah, win. Exactly. And not
next week after we hopefully do well.
Yeah, hopefully we get to talk about it a little bit on the X-Men 3 podcast after we actually do well.
Maybe that'll be what we talk about instead of X-Men 3.
Pre-merge again, it's gonna be like another 3 weeks of us just making fun of him. So
I don't know if he can take that. I think we have to protect him.
We need to protect Cam. If we don't, then we're assholes.
I mean, I think I've proven that. So third time's a charm.
All right. Well, anything else before we sign off for the week?
Fuck you, Kevin.
Oh, fuck you too, sweetie.
Well, on that note, we will see you all next week for X-Men: The Last Stand on the Tribe of Nerds.